It's November 9th, 2023. This is Roqe. Hi there, welcome to episode 295 of Roqe. I'm Jian Gomeshi. Hello to you from Toronto. Hello to you from Canada. Salam Dostan Aziz. Durud ba shuma. Tea, chai, tea, chai. Could just do that for the next hour and a half.
Yeah.
It is the lifeline of our existence as Iranians. Or is it? Turns out we were coffee drinkers until about 150 years ago. And now, of course, we are obsessed with tea. It's a special edition of Roqe with a focus on all things tea related. Tea and Iranian obsession. Roqe episode 295 featuring, well, Smart Pegah is in the studio. Hello.
Hello.
Mahsa Mortazavi is in the studio. Hello.
Hi.
And our featured guest joining me in just a few moments from, actually he's in California for some reason right now. Is the broadcaster, the artist, the musician, the radio host, the BBC Persian longtime stalwart, Behzad Bolour will be joining me, who, it turns out, is a self-proclaimed tea master, tea expert, tea obsessive, tea connoisseur.
He did do a documentary on it, yeah?
He did do a documentary. He did a documentary on tea about, I guess, 9 years ago now. But also, it turns out, I mean, I'm going to ask him about this, but in his daily life and rituals, his day is populated by tea, and he does these ceremonies for himself.
Wow.
By himself, from what I understand. And his beard. Behzad Bolour joining me in just a few moments. This is a special edition about tea. We're going to have our Roqe Roundup after Behzad. We're going to talk a bit about tea after Behzad as well, and then we'll talk about a little bit about what's happening in the Iranian diaspora and beyond as well. But it is a all things tea related few days, because on Monday I posed the question when you and Raha were here about Pegah, about what is appropriate and inappropriate when it comes to our Persian culture, our Iranian culture, and the way we handle our obsession with tea. I then posted a video on Instagram and on YouTube with the question, can we serve herbal tea at an Iranian mehmooni? The question, of course, not being...
can we or should we?
Well, it can we, man. It doesn't mean we are not capable of it. Yeah, physically, we can do so. But can we, meaning, is it culturally appropriate? Is it okay? The question was put out there. Lots of response.
Yes, very interesting responses.
Some great responses, but also a lot of disagreement. A lot of
surprise.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I mean,
That's
we
true.
pose a question to Iranians across the world, and we're divided yet
That's
again.
true. Do you think it's generational? A little bit?
The fact that we're divided all the time?
No, about the tea.
Oh.
The tea, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll get to some
think
of the.
so.
We're going to read some of the comments that people have left, but you think so? So
Yeah.
younger people
Maybe
think it's
more
okay
accepting,
to more accepting of herbal tea.
I think so.
I don't know. Yeah,
Did you find
Mind you,
that some people thought it was offensive to serve something other than the regular tea that we
I'm
usually
Well, there are
have?
definitely people
Yeah.
who said. I mean, we'll go through the comments later, but there's definitely people who were like, no. This is the way it is, and this is this is what I love about us. I said this on Monday as well, and I'll talk about it with Behzad. This tea thing, I mean, the way we carry on about tea, I would have thought for centuries and centuries and thousands of years, it's relatively new to Iranian culture. It's like it's been around as long as the automobile for Iranians,
Right.
in terms of cultivating tea, making it the primary one of the primary recreational drinks in
I was
Iran.
really surprised about that,
Yeah.
actually.
So can you turn Peg up a little bit? She's a little quiet. Sorry, Pega.
No, that's okay.
It's not by my dictate that you're so quiet. It's so it's amazing to me that in that relatively short history, like given the history of the world and
Right.
the region, Iran, that we're that particular, that the Iranian people are, that says a lot about the personality type,
Yes.
doesn't it? that it might be pretty new to us, but we know exactly the
exactly,
way,
yeah.
and we carry on as if we set the rules. Like Iran tea was brought to Iran even today. More than 90% of the tea that is consumed in Iran is imported. It's not an Iranian thing, It's like brought from
We've
somewhere
made
else.
it our own, is what we've done.
I really believe
We
that if
import
you
good.
asked,
Yeah.
We import in a good way.
that's right. If
We
you
own
asked
it.
the average Iranian where tea, who invented tea,
They'll probably say us.
we'd say us. Yeah, of course we would.
Oh my
the
God.
yakhjol and
Have you heard the
alcohol.
ice cream thing? They
The what?
say it was made in Iran, ice cream.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard it? It says like ice that was served by somebody named Karim.
Yeah.
That's why it became ice cream. So, yeah, for chai,
Oh
I'm
my
sure.
God.
No, we have a
The
whole,
fun-
we invented human rights. We invented, you're going to say we did, right?
The human rights, the charter? The charter? The Manshur
the
Kurosh? Are you going to
Cyrus-
say no?
See, this is what I'm talking about.
Are you really going to try and debate that?
Are
But,
you really?
I mean, turns out we're really late to the tea party. We're late to
Yeah.
tea, and yet we know how the tea needs to be served, when it needs to be served, what it needs to be served in, what the temperature needs to be, the color, etc.
I'm going to be very stereotypical and say that, we might not have invented it, but we do it the best.
Oh boy,
Oh, I don't think so.
Really?
who does it better?
Come on. What's better than like chai
English.
shirin with nabat?
Well, chai shirin with nabat, I'm sure that Behruz will have some good information about that, adding stuff to chai.
What about Behzad?
What
I
about
mean, I don't
this
mind
one?
asking Behruz, but Behzad, you said Behruz. It's okay. Yeah.
Did I?
Yes.
Anyway.
I thought maybe somebody else was coming on the show.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe invite them. Let's have a tea together.
But you were going to say, yes.
I was.
Who invented the best tea, or who makes the best tea?
I think the English people have a
Oh,
history of.
Do you
of
put milk
having
in your tea?
I don't, but my
Okay.
son does.
I never understood that.
May I speak as the son of an Azeri
Yes.
woman? Can I speak for the Turks?
Well, I can
How
speak for
about
the
tea
Turks
in
as well.
Turkey? That's pretty good. No?
Yeah, but they don't put milk in it.
What about
do
tea
they?
in China? What is this? Why are you asking that question every
Because-
time we bring up a...
Because there's so many people who say that the British style of tea is the best, and it's because they put milk in their tea, and
That's
I
not-
hate that.
I don't remember.
Isn't it the way of brewing the tea?
That makes
Instead
it
of just-
better?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't remember putting milk in the tea when I
yeah.
was growing
British
up in
are
England.
known for putting milk in their tea.
I don't know about that.
Maybe I'm wrong.
China, India, Japan.
I'm sure they all have good tea, but
Lots
I
of
still
tea, yeah.
I still like my chai nabat.
Yes, you do. All right, so we're going to get to the roundup, and after Behzad Bolour, Behruz, some people know him as Bolour.
I never. You are.
You were so. This is the Iran International in you. You're like, no, I didn't say that. It's on the tape. We
Let's
roll-
listen. Let's listen. No, I don't want to listen. No,
We'll
please
roll it
skip
back.
it.
We'll roll it back.
Jian,
Mahsa and Pegah.
you are putting pressure on me today.
Hold on right where you are, and let's go. Well, it's,
No
these
tea
are
for you
These
today.
are stressful times. By the way, I had this whole plan that we were going to drink tea through this show.
I have my tea.
Is it tea?
Yes.
What kind of tea
it's
is it?
green.
Oh,
It's green tea.
Controversial.
Yeah.
green tea.
So you were on the side of herbal tea is okay. At a mehmooni.
Let's hear
Would
him
you
first.
serve-
I
would-
don't know. I
would
don't know
you
which
serve-
side to pick. I'm afraid.
She wants to listen to the expert.
You don't have an opinion? You're why?
I'm afraid to have opinion because you are
What am I doing?
putting pressure on me today. It's been going on.
No, this is in the Middle East. This is just tea. You could actually answer this. But you've chosen to drink
There
green
are
tea.
some complications with black tea for me, so
Yeah.
I can't have it all the time. That's why I choose different types of tea throughout the day.
Caffeine, the caffeine.
The caffeine in it, it messes up my stomach.
Oh,
Yeah. You don't want to go into details.
Okay.
I would, but you don't want to.
All right.
By the way, might I just defend myself? The English do put milk in their tea, and it started in the 17th and 18th century.
Where'd you get that?
And it
Wikipedia?
was because the china that they would serve, like their teacups, were made out of china, and it was to cool the liquid and stop the cups from cracking.
There you go.
So there you go.
The ingenious
See?
British.
Isn't there a reason why you call her a smart Pegah?
But I don't. Sometimes,
Immediate
but I don't
research.
remember that.
I swear it's a thing. I was sure of this.
Tea being served in Britain. You know, you have high tea. I don't remember the milk. Maybe I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks in London, I guess. We are coming to you on rookmedia.com. It's there that you can link to all of our platforms: Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, Castbox. If you like to see some visuals with Rook, switch over to YouTube right now. If you like your Rook descriptions of bulletins in English and in Persian, check us out on Telegram. We are on Patreon, which means that you can become a Rook member and support us regularly by pressing the Support Us button on our website, rookmedia.com. We appreciate it when you do. You get special things if you become a Rook member. Access to particular content, our monthly newsletter, invites to certain events. You can become a Patreon member, a Rook member, by going to our website, again, rookmedia.com, and pressing the Support Us button. All right. So you guys stick around here. We're going to quiet your microphones, and we're going to get the man on the line here from California. You know, we know that the connection between Iranians and tea is deeply rooted in our recent culture and history. And Iranians have one of the highest per capita rates of tea consumption in the world. But there are many kinds of tea-loving peoples across the globe. With Iranians, the thing is, there tends to be a lot of specificity. What kind of tea? When do we drink it? How is it served? The symbolic usages, what it all means. And so we asked the question today, are Iranians OCD about tea? And perhaps too much so. My first guest... Can I finish the introduction, please, sir? I haven't even introduced you yet.
I'm an Iranian. I cannot hold it. You know, it has to be.
Please hold it. My first guest is a renowned Iranian British broadcaster with over 30 years of experience at BBC Persian. Born and raised in Tehran, Behzad Bolour left Iran at the age of 18 during the 1979 revolution, has since made London his home. He has dedicated his life to promoting Iranian artists, underground music, preserving Persian culture, language, history through his documentary works and social media. He's become a significant voice for the Iranian community, both inside and outside Iran. And in 2014, Behzad hosted the documentary Tea, a Revolution Brewing. That was on BBC World News. And right now, the man you hear interrupting me throughout this introduction, Behzad Bolour, joins me from California today. Hello, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel like a hero.
You didn't go to California just for this interview, did you? To sound glamorous?
Yeah, I just went right here, so we have a better time, you know, distance between us. No, I came here to see my brother because my visa is running out, because American visa, you know, is very difficult to get, especially for men like me, born in Iran with our Tehran, Iran, our British passport. So we'll be questioned and delayed. So it's the last 2 weeks of my visa. So after that, I have to, God knows what happens.
Okay,
so I'm here to see them and enjoy myself. It's a fantastic hotel.
You're estifadeing that.
Bale,
yes.
Su estifadeing.
Yes.
App using.
I got it.
Not just using.
And
anyway, so here.
Can I just, I mean, you are in we're going to get to tea. I mean, that's the reason
Diego,
you're on today. San Diego. Now, when you go to San Diego, is it like when you came to Toronto and it's like a hero's welcome and there's parades and women throwing themselves at you and men taking you out for drinks?
Punch me in the face.
Well, I mean, what is is it like that there as well?
No, but thank you very much for making me feel good. But no, there's nobody lives here actually. It's like the end of cowboy films, you know. There's a
that's not true.
Trolling.
San Diego's a big city, and actually, there's a lot of Persians there.
Yeah, but we are in the jewel of San Diego, La Jolla, the jewel, which is on the mountainside and facing the sea. Is a city of rich people, and everybody. And I saw in a day, I see like 3 4-wheel drive Lamborghinis.
Yes. So you're
Yeah,
a
so it's like,
you're a
so
rich
nobody
kid.
knows me. That's why nobody knows me.
You're a rich. You've outed yourself as a rich kid since you're staying with family and you're amongst
Yeah,
rich people.
pretending, dude. Pretending, yes, definitely. But no, he's not very rich. But maybe he is. No, they moved here long ago. But that's why it's lovely here. And just recently, I read that in the radio it said that San Diego, which is a very long city, because La Jolla, which is completely like 40 minutes away, is part of San Diego, and it's completely different atmosphere.
Yes.
It's the most expensive city in America. And I have to tell you, I was surprised, shocked when I came here, when I look at the prices, and also I think it's stupid. You buy a coffee, I don't know, somebody just putting something from shelf in front of you. When you pay, then comes tip. And it's like 15%, 20%.
Right, yeah, you go to you order a coffee and then you have to pay a tip. Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
You're in North America, brother. Yeah, that's what happens here now.
Yeah, but that culture has gotten worse because this is like as if you're obliged. So that's why I'm not going to come back here again. Only because of that reason. Not because of visa.
By the way, have you been to the La Jolla Playhouse? There's a famous theater there in La Jolla.
Oh yeah, I passed by it. You know, 2 years ago.
They do Broadway plays before they go to Broadway. They do a run at the La Jolla. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I passed by. I didn't go there. No, I'm not a very cultured person.
So here's the segue. Have you had any good tea in San Diego? You see how I did that?
I'm going to show you something. Yes, I like it.
Thank you. You've got a tea right now. Don't tell me.
Yes.
Look at you.
This murky, dark, oxidized tea.
And it's a camarboidic,
the light doesn't even pass through it. There's no milk in it. It's a tea that has been brewed but left outside for a day. So it looks like this.
It's very
porous. Yeah, it looks like a sewer. The reason I kept this for you.
Why did you keep that for me? That this old tea.
I tell you, for this show. It's only a day. The thing is, smells like
Is it an
tea.
experiment that you want to leave tea out for?
It tastes great.
Okay.
The tea can go oxidized and look really ugly, but it's still drinkable. The reason I show you this is why I became a heavy tea drinker and a connoisseur. And the most famous Iranian tea maker in London. Because of this. About 32 years ago.
Oh, this is great. You know, my first question was, tea plays a really important role in your life. When did your love affair with tea begin? So now you're going to, yes.
Yeah. Funny enough, I'm in my sister-in-law's house with my brother, yeah? So about 22 years ago, I bought a new house and I wanted to serve tea for her mother because she had always really good tea in London. It was all red and dark and, smelled great and stringent and fantastic. So I said, I'm going to save her fantastic. So I bought this really nice tea set and I bought some tea and I brewed it for like 10 minutes or something. And I put it in the glass. And as I served, it went dark like this. And I remember there was light coming through the blinds and you could just see how it was like a mordab. I don't know how you can just put the English word for it, mordab underneath. And since then, at that moment, I'm going to make the best teas in London. I'm not going to embarrass myself. And that's how it started. And I spent thousands and thousands of pounds. I remember I went to East London because I realized that's where the wholesalers are. And I started reading about it. Then I realized tea has so many different angles. It's much different to coffee. It's more like wine.
Well, now hang on a second. I'm going to ask you about all of that. But you said something there that I can't let go. You said, did I hear you say you're the what is it? The most important tea maker in Britain, in London? What is the?
Yes, in my own opinion.
You haven't been given an award or there's no official citation.
Iranian.
Yeah,
I just claim things without any reason. I just claim it and I just fight for it and I tell people off. So I'm self-acclaimed best tea maker on the first floor
and
of a Victorian house.
Even before this episode, this incident with your family where you endeavored to from then on make great tea, were you a tea lover as a kid growing up? I mean,
not really. I was a coffee drinker because when I first moved to London, in Iran we only have Nescafe, and somehow in our brain Nescafe is the coffee.
Right.
I don't know why, because it was an import or something. Although we could have fantastic so-called Turkish tea or tea, you know,
Or
properly
coffee.
made in
Yeah, yeah.
in coffee houses. So when I went there, I said, "Oh my God, coffee, Nescafe, blah, blah, blah." And then I got a job at the age of 19 in a punk um, um, market called Great Gear Market. It was the most famous punk market of 1970s. Just see some love coming up.
Yeah, what was that?
I don't know where that come from.
What's happening right now? There's
I don't
like
know. It's coming from my
hearts
mouth.
coming out of your mouth. Okay.
Thank you, Parisa. Anyway, I did into it. I like that
I don't
button.
know. No. Okay. Go ahead. Anyway, yes.
And anyway, so I started working there. I was very young, and I remember it was like a little island inside this fantastic market. I saw transvestites for the first time. I saw real punks with sharp hair, weird dress. So I had to start making cappuccinos. And in those days, the cappuccino machine had a handle.
Mm.
And I saw people sitting down with a rat in their head. So imagine a guy from Tehran sitting there, and the coffee. Oh my God, I didn't know they make coffees like this.
Yes.
And since then, I become a cappuccino drinker. But in those days, you could either get to these weird places, or you had to go to Italian restaurants to get cappuccino.
Yes.
So it was a weird culture in 1980s, early 1980s. So then I became coffee drinker. Then till 1999, when I served this tea. And since then, I become the tea drinker of all time.
You know, as a sidebar, I have to say, this thing, I want to do a whole other episode about Nescafe. It's like, it's kind of like, it's like modern talking. No one understands how Iranians can like it so much, except for Iranians themselves. It's like, what is this thing with Nescafe? I actually, true story, had a dinner party. It wasn't even that long ago. It was last year. And I'm very particular about the coffee. I make very strong coffee. I take pride in getting these beans that are, you know, properly great roasted, dark roasted. And I actually made the coffee and had two people, it was a couple, but they asked me if I had Nescafe. This is great. Do you have Nescafe? And honestly, I was like, what the fuck are they talking about? Because
are they Iranians?
Yes, they were Iranian. That's my point. I mean, it was very strange. It was like
shame.
It was very, very odd. It was like asking.
It's a cultural thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It reminds me of I was in Dubai or somewhere, and there's this in this airport, and there's this, I think, like few Arab boys and girls. They were rushing to go to the airplane, and then before that, they had to buy lots of this Pringles, you know, the
chips,
chips, yes,
yeah. Crisps,
Nescafe, because I realized in their country they have lots of advertising, and they had to rush and buy lots of it and take it.
That's right.
So it is the advertising and the history. I remember I had my best memories with that Nescafe in the teenage life.
The good news is Nescafe is very cheap here because nobody wants it. So
exactly. Over there is different.
Now I was a little shocked. I want to get into the tea story and you're one of a couple of guests that we're going to have, and I want to fill in some of the blanks here. I was a little shocked
go quickly over it
when I learned that tea did not actually even come to Iran until the last 500 years. I mean, it was in a major way. It came from China in the 15th century, but was used mostly medicinally and didn't actually become something that Iranians cultivated until the 19th century. In fact, the late 19th century. In fact, and this is, related to our conversation about Nescafe, perhaps. In fact, Iranians were originally coffee drinkers.
Yes.
And coffee got usurped by tea. Did you know that? Well, you would know that, I guess.
Yes. I know. I read about it.
I find that fascinating.
Yemen, because coffee comes from Ethiopia and Yemen, mostly introduced just through Yemen, South Arabia. And because in South Arabia, we have a long history from Achaemenian times. So it always has trading. So that's how it came to us. And it was definitely coffee drinking. But I'm not sure it was a similar way of like a Turkish coffee or something. It was more like Arabic coffee.
Right.
And that is very true. And I think the reason that we have this tea and coffee culture was very much because of Islam, I think. Because alcohol was forbidden. So it was something that you can use in public. Mm. It was a public drink.
Right.
Where in Europe, it's completely opposite in a way. Tea started in aristocracy and conversations and home and gatherings. But coffee replaced pubs. I read about that intellectuals would go to coffee houses and
Right.
ask for this very bitter black drink. And the reason they went there because people weren't drunk to have a fight. You could drink something and have a conversation.
Of course.
And people would come in with the latest news of the day. So because the newspapers were, not very popular. I mean, they were there, but people would come up with a news. So intellectuals would gather in coffee houses. They would know about daily news, and they wouldn't get drunk. They could talk properly.
Right.
So it's quite different to us. But tea, anyway, with me started then. Then I started getting into the tea culture. I read books. I went to buy different teapots. Then I realized the best teapot is Yijing clay.
Well, hang on a second. We were talking about the history of tea, and now you started talking about yourself again.
Yeah, because I went into it.
Oh.
Because I am tea.
Okay, I'm going to get to you. Don't worry. Okay, I'm going to get to your practices. But stick with me with the history, because the other thing that surprised me is, now we talk about the cultivation that happens in the late 18th century, early 19th century. There's a guy named, you would know this, Kashif al-Sultaneh, who smuggles tea saplings and seeds from, he was actually a French diplomat. He goes to India, gets this stuff, and then he starts cultivating it. And it becomes something that is cultivated now in the north of Iran, the Caspian Sea and Mazandaran. But I was surprised to learn that tea is so popular in Iran. We know that part, but that over 90% of the tea in Iran is imported. It's not made in Iran. I just assumed that tea was, made in Iran, but
there's reason behind it. You're absolutely right. First of all, there are rumors about it, which your next intelligent person will tell you about the rumors about the guy who brought the tea, because there are so many rumors. He brought him in his hand stick, which is not right. And then we had Chinese bushes coming to Iran, because we have Islamic and Chinese, and you can taste the difference between them. Same went for Black Sea. The same happened in Turkey and Georgia regarding the tea culture. What I was going to say?
We're talking about the fact that most of the tea is imported in Iran.
Yeah, but I forgot what I was going to say.
You were saying you were going to give the reason why it's imported. I mean, presumably because they can't cultivate enough inside Iran for the demands of the population.
Yes. The reason is the lack of support after revolution, and also the greediness of businessmen, and also the diversion of Iranian taste in tea. Back in 1970s, we had some twining, because we are from good families, so we had proper tea, twining, I remember. And in mid-70s, Earl Grey entered Iran. And I remember we would go to good houses and they would have Earl Grey, and we would think this is the smell of tea. This is how proper tea smells like, which is not true, because it's added aroma, which comes from the skin of like a lemon from China, called bergamot, which is similar to lemon, but it's got thinner skin anyway. Which apparently was invented, the idea, in 18th century, 19th century in Britain, I don't know. And so we had that. So keep that going, and the revolution happens, and suddenly you can add this flavoring to teas. And there's cheap tea coming from Ceylon. So businessmen started using this thirst for this lovely aroma in Iran. So they imported cheap tea from Ceylon, added this, and people started loving it. And the government did nothing. Maybe people in there were part of the deal, I don't know. But they did nothing. So the Iranian tea, which was fantastic, it was really good. It's from our culture. It's being harvested by hundreds of people. Families went down. That tea came up, and then another horrible thing happened. Was
funny how we can't even have one conversation without the impact of the disastrous impact of the Islamic Revolution. Not one, even a conversation about tea. But go ahead.
I'll just give you one good advertising. There's a group of young guys called Luti. They are on the Instagram as well. They started going to the grandmothers and fathers in harvesting tea. They actually go and pick up the tree leaves on top, and they're doing fantastic hand rolled tea. And I'm trying to spread it everywhere, and they're really good. So thank God there are some people doing that. So that came, and also lack of knowledge, because what I've experienced in the last 40 years is the enhancement of superstition and suppression of knowledge, which happen everywhere in Iran.
Right.
So people are into superstition and they believe everything. So there is this belief spread by many stupid people who claim to be scientists or experts that tea is bad for you. That you have too much tea, it gives you
Really?
sangue collier.
Never heard of that.
That is, every day, imagine, every time I have صبحانه در موقعیتی بهتر, breakfast in a better occasion, which is my line for my tea ceremony, which I have prepared here as well. I'm going to show you. They come up with this stupid thing that it gives you kidney stone. It is bad for your heart. It poisons you. That's why suddenly the tea in Iran is become very weak. Right. And like Abzipo or Ajandide. Okay, and that's why the whole tea culture in Iran has gone dead, in my opinion. It's gone really bad. Tea culture now exists properly in Turkey.
And it certainly does.
Yeah.
And as someone who I love, of course I can't go to Iran these days, but I go regularly to Turkey so I can get as close to Iran as possible. And I just love the tea and the kamarorik and the little, and the tradition of it in Turkey, all of that. But I was going to ask you, because you have an interesting perspective as someone who lives in the UK. I mean, the British, I was born in England. I know that England is a tea culture. I mean, there's famous stories, books, movies made about living in England, and you're constantly making tea. The way that we would think about that as Iranians. Do you think Iranians outdo the Brits in your experience when it comes to our obsession with tea?
I think Irish people are the biggest consumer of tea and coffee. I think that was a few years ago. We outdrink tea. I doubt it, because I live in Britain, and I think we very much are always proud, that we always are the best and the number one. Even if it's in misery, we are more miserable than anyone else.
Yes.
If things are expensive, I was comparing prices in here and Iran, and someone said, "Oh, the prices are very similar. We just want to be number one in everything." So I don't think so. I think British people drink a hell lot of tea. It's unbelievable drink. They even drink tea with food, which in Iran, based on the false knowledge, they don't. They even started not to drink tea after the food. They think they die.
But here's what I'm going to tell you, and I know this as someone who grew up in England and who often spends time there. The British, as much tea as the Brits drink, they are not as OCD about tea as Iranians are. And let me get into this now, because Iranians,
no, that's true.
Are everything. I mean, just in the same way that you say we have to be number one in everything, everything also has its specifications when it comes to being Iranian. And this is the way we do it right. And you, in this documentary that you made, you at one point you do your own little tea ceremony, and you say there are 3 elements to a perfect cup of Persian tea. Can you remember them? Can you take us through them?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Labduz, labchas, labsuz. Labduz means so you shut up. It's so good you don't say anything. Labsuz, it has to be very hot, which they say shouldn't be hot because it can give you a throat cancer. And labchas means it has to be gas, stringent, and bitter.
Yes.
But I added another element, which is the 4th element, because I'm such a silly boy. I said labus. It should kiss your lips. Because I've added the element of emotion to our tea ceremony, and I believe I've created a new tea ceremony for Iranians. صبحانه در موقعیتی بهتر, which is a line from my friend who is a poet, Afshin Babazadeh, who wrote a book in early 1990s, a book of poetry, and that line, صبحانه در موقعیتی بهتر, always stuck to my head, and I tried to recreate it. So I did it. So there's an element of emotion and time. I would say time, because I believe in my tea ceremony, I connect myself to my ancestors, or I connect myself to future, or connect myself to some other land by the objects I put next to my tray, and I drink tea with the tray. That's what I do. So that's why I have these objects, for instance. If you want to see,
Well, mostly people are listening, so just describe as you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna see. So
It's fucking TV guys. Huh?
So
Expect
how can I
everybody's watching a video.
look back in anger. All right. This is like a little tray, which is metal or wood or something, and it has to be well made. It can't be like a processed food. It can't be a processed technology or processed artwork. It has to be old or genuine.
This is how you serve the tea. You're describing the importance of
everything.
You can't just
you can't just put
the tea in a mug and put that on a table.
No, not in my. You have to spend time for tea. So it has to have a light right light angle. So you see shadows. I mean, you can't see shadows here because the light is too bright.
Right.
Flower.
A flower.
Ancient object. This is a flower.
Okay.
Oh, somebody's ringing. This is
somebody's calling you while the tea in the middle
They
of the
never
tea
answer
ceremony.
the
How
phone
dare
anyway.
they?
Other Johnny, answer the phone or turn it off. Okay. Keep it there. Okay.
So
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so explain. And always have an object. I mean, now I put this
What is that?
recreation of a suit. This is a whistle. God, this. Let's listen. Okay, this is America.
I really think part of the tea ceremony should be silencing the phone. I don't know if that's possible.
I know. I don't know. It doesn't silence.
But let me ask you. So are you saying that whenever you serve tea, you have a fresh flower on the sofre, on the serving tray?
After this beep goes, 99% of time I create this kind of a thing, and I have like an ancient vase, which is this Sasanian, this whistle, which is like a shape of a cow.
Yeah, but
and then a nice cup. Yeah,
but Behzad, is this just for you, or do you do this for? I mean, sorry, I should say, is this just when you have guests, or do you do this when you're by yourself?
No, by myself.
By yourself, you have a tea ceremony.
Yeah, every morning or at night. And I put pretty interesting stuff like this orange, which has been really colored and shaped under the sun. It's so real. It's so organic. It's got black lines on it. And I sort of gather things. I have normally nice teapots. I don't have it here, but this is something I gave to my nephew. It's from China. And these are like proper teapots from the clay called Yijing, which is so fine. It's almost like China.
So hang on a second. You wake up in the morning.
Yes.
I mean, this is a lot of effort to go to for.
It is. I tell you something.
For oneself.
I wake up 2 a.m. And I put on the tea. And my tea to brew is all the objects are well thought. And I got even the Gusvan skin on it as a tea. What do you call this in my English?
Tea cozy. A tea cozy, like a thing.
Tea cozy. Yeah. And my teapots are always like 300 years or 200 years. They're genuine, or has to be very fine china or something well handmade. So from 2 a.m. because I need 8 to 10 hours for the taste I want. Because, tea like wine.
You really are the right person for this episode, by the way. And by the way, the question has been answered. Are Iranians OCD about tea? Do you set an alarm for 2 a.m. in the morning, or you just?
No, I wake up.
You wake up. I have to make my tea.
Like that. Yes.
All right.
What is this?
What is going on?
What was that?
Is there somebody else on the call?
Yeah, there's callers coming. I mean, anyway, let me continue. So I wake up and I tell you something. I'm so sleepy, but I have to do it. So I brew the tea. I put it there with a candle
every day.
And I know it's almost 5 times a week.
What if you have company? Same. You do this, like if you somebody's staying over.
No, when
special friend
over, I do coffee. But I do the similar table for it. I create this story. But it's coffee. I can't be bothered because we have to jump over them. And they wake up. And you know what happens when they wake up.
That's what I'm trying to say. It's not easy for you. Yeah.
Yeah, then you cannot sleep. And anyway, so that happened like 3 years ago. Anyway,
So other than when you have the special friend, you make the tea at 2 a.m. because it has to.
So after 8 hours, because you see, I choose which garden what year because you have to choose the height of the garden the country comes from, the origin of the plant,
Oh dear.
and the year are important to the taste of the tea. So you cannot do this, what I'm saying, with every tea. Some teas you can't brew them more than 10 minutes. Some that are 1 hour, some that are 6 hours, some 15 hours. I had tea brewed for 36 hours because different layers of aroma and taste comes out. And if it's a good tea, it still stays sharp and clear. So my teas are like that. They're normally from Sri Lanka, from a garden called New Vatanakanda.
But this is very time intensive.
But that is like a namaz. It's like
it's a meditation for
I don't believe in God. No, it's like it is a ceremony.
Yes.
And because of that, my mood changes, my thought changes. I sometimes put a picture of my father at his young age, and I'm having tea with him, or different. I have this thing, like just recently got it. This is Akamenian, and I will have a tea with this.
And do you?
I'm going to have.
Serious question. Do you do any? I mean, do you have the TV on, or do you have any music playing?
The TV is always on.
The TV is always on. So you're.
I look at the object, Jian. Look, you can use this object for a tea. Dry bread. Okay, and walnut and almonds are the best in my opinion. And dry bread. This is a cornbread, but dry bread tastes fantastic for tea.
Okay, so wait a second. You hang on.
Hang
on. You took me out of the meditation a little bit when you said the TV's on. So basically,
I tell you why.
What you're actually talking about is you make yourself breakfast and you watch TV. That's what.
Yeah, I tell you what. First of all, it's always good to see the whole world around you. But what I use is a very clever idea in my opinion. I use the light of the tea and the colors that it changes to look at the surface of the teacup. I have some pictures on my website you can see.
So you use the light of the TV? The TV
Yeah,
light.
for the reflections.
Wow.
And sometimes the sky. So it depends, because if I wake up like 6 a.m. to have the tea because it's winter or something, then the TV has to be on. Otherwise, the sky. So
how much tea do you have, by the way? How much tea do you drink in that ceremony? Just one?
A whole 1.5 liter teapot, which is this teapot.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I normally do it twice a day.
Okay. It's probably actually, it sounds very healthy. It sounds like a good thing to do. You've said, like in that, I'm going to come back to your practices. Don't worry. I'm going to, but in that doc, you also said a few things about, because I want to get into the culture of how we are OCD in so many different ways, the Iranians. You said a few things that I honestly couldn't tell if they're real or if they're jokes or what. You said that brides-to-be have to know how to make tea for the groom's family. Is it?
That's old-fashioned. Yeah, of course.
Is that really a thing? That was actually a thing?
Yeah, it is a thing. It was a thing up to age of 16. I was in Iran. I remember we had a khassegar, a volunteer, for one of the girls in our family, which was old-fashioned life in those days. And actually, she brought tea to serve, and they were looking, and she did something really naughty because she didn't like the guy. So the tea was, of course, made by the mother. So it's always perfect. Or by someone who works there. So it was fantastic, I remember. And those days, tea was real tea in Iran. It wasn't like this shit they drink, which is like a yellow water.
Right.
And perfumed water. So it was, and then she was just going like that. And they said, why you're a bit flimsy? She said, I forgot to wear my glasses. I can't see anything. So that was her naughtiness, just to reject the volunteer guy. So it did exist. And even now, right now, I don't, sometimes if I have a girl around, I do that as a joke. And actually serious. I serve her tea and say, what do you think about my tea? So it's like a khassegari. So I recreate that as well, but that is not early in the morning. It would be in the afternoon when I serve the tea. Right. And but then wine, of course.
It hasn't borne the fruit of marriage yet for you, though, however.
No. I'm at the age of divorce right now. Actually, if I was married, I would be divorced.
You're at the age of your third divorce. You haven't... You haven't mastered the tea throughout all these ceremonies enough to actually capture, to put a ring on the
yeah, exactly. It's not partner, but it's not the tea that you kiss yet. Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
Don't be jealous, though.
Of course I'm jealous. Of course, the opportunity to be with you would be the opportunity of a lifetime. Clearly. I talk about how I love the kamarborik little esticons in Turkey, and I know that in our tradition, I think about my mom and the beautiful glass. We have this tradition of serving tea in small, delicate glasses.
Kamarborik.
It's almost bizarre. You wouldn't expect somebody to put it in a big mug the way North Americans or some British do. Where did that tradition come from, and why is that?
I think that tradition in my little research was that originally comes from the idea of tulip, and also comes maybe from wine cups of the early days, but it's the tulip shape. And tell you something, I went and did experiment. I mean, in my documentary, you can see first of all that the quality of the texture of the teapot is important to change the taste of tea. That's one thing. And the best one, for instance, for Assam tea, in my opinion, is pewter or metal. For other teas like Darjeeling or even other ones are bone china or glass, because bone china, the surface has to be so reflective and shiny, it makes the aroma comes up, and you think the tea tastes better. Yeah,
I have a glass tea maker, and the tea always tastes different than it does when I make it in a teapot, and I never thought about that. So actually, that the gents of the the pot makes it,
and of course, and it has to be bone china or Yijing, but they make the tea taste stronger. So you must have good tea. You must have, and you must know how long you want to keep it. And the reason I have this, I'm going to tell you why I brought this especially for you. It is a tea bag. So I'm going to come back. So you have to, and they taste different. So that's one thing. And also the cup. I mean, this is a lousy kamarborik. I have to be more exaggerated and shouldn't have this.
It shouldn't have an arm, right? It shouldn't have a.
Yeah, it shouldn't. It's not my home. I got 50 different.
You're a mess. It's a terrible tea ceremony. Yeah, it's a disaster. The phone's ringing. Yeah. And the aroma, that shape enhances the aroma. The another glass that I use is something like this, a flute shape. That I only put a little bit at the bottom. Really? Like a champagne glass or something?
Almost like a champagne. And also in China, when I went to Taiwan, I was to this exhibition of tea in Taiwan about 10 years ago. They have invented a kind of a tiny thing like this, made of china, that you pour the tea from these teapots into this. Then you empty it in another, they drink in small cups.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
And then they smell this and drink that, because the aroma on this is amazing.
Oh, they smell the champagne glass and they drink it from the tiny.
Yeah.
Well, everybody's been to a Chinese restaurant where you get the green tea in a very small cup. It's a tiny little, So
because you drink it quickly. Even the Arabs' coffee cup are the same. It's one slip. Even the wines in the old days were like one. They weren't like this. And this is another way of making tea. This is like a teapot. It's called gaiwan. Yeah, you put your tea here and water. You put it here. You do that, and then you empty it to a smaller cup, and you drink it. And keep on using it like a teapot.
Again, 90% of our audience is audio, so they don't know what you're doing.
Oh yeah. What I just explained was it's like a Chinese teacup with a lid on it, and you brew the tea inside the cup. You can do that, and they call gaiwan.
Now you referenced. You go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, and also these teapots, which are very small, they're like as much as a little orange or even lemon. This is quite a big one. You fill it up with large leaf tea, put hot water, you keep it for 30 seconds, you empty it and you drink it. And you do it all the time. So it's like a tea bag. It brews very quickly in this. And as 6 times or 7 times you brew and empty it within 30 seconds, the tea in this teapot becomes stronger and stronger. That's another thing called gaiwan. It's called Kung Fu style.
You referenced this earlier, but part of our OCD-ness is that Iranians love to have their tea...
Samovar,
no. Scalding hot. Very hot.
Oh, yeah.
And when it's not super hot, the host usually says, let me change that for you so that it's super hot. What is that about?
That is about, again, I think that is to do with masculinity of the old days, and also your experience in tea making. Like I went to Georgia, Tbilisi. They're good tea drinkers. They even have samovar, because samovar, in my opinion, is a creation from Mongolia. It's a digezut paz. It's like the hot pot moved and became samovar in Russia, and then came to us. In there was this Azerbaijani woman who was in a sulfur bath, and we had tea together. It's the end of my program. You can see it. And she had this tea in a kamar barik with jam, albalu jam, which is a sour cherry jam. And she drank it. And as I went, it burned my mouth. And she said, "You're not a tea drinker. You're not a man." And that I realized is because she is a proper tea drinker. I'm just a kid. In the world of tea drinking, the high ranks, hierarchies can drink that lapsus tea. But it's not good for you. It can give you throat cancer.
But
I heard.
What, throat cancer, really? Because it's hot?
Yeah, because of the heat. Yeah.
I don't know about that. But I like it when it's super hot, because it increases the chances that you're going to sip it slowly, as opposed to
because
scarf it down.
You don't do it like the way she would go quickly to it. You keep it. Exactly. You sip it all the time, so there's no problem in that.
Now let me ask you where you stand on the sweetness thing, because
0.
We don't use. Okay. Well, then let me ask you, if you were to use shikar, we don't, of course, use sugar. We use gandum. We use sugar cubes. And
yes.
While most people, most cultures would put the sugar in the tea and then just swirl it around, we take the sugar cube and put it in. Is that what you do? You put it in your mouth, and then, I mean, you say you don't use it at all,
I
right?
may do. Because the tea is all about the aroma and the taste, and anything else ruins it. For instance, I go to place and they say, "Oh, we made your tea with saffron." Yeah, disgusting. Because proper tea has
that's disgusting.
So complicated, huh?
That's disgusting. Saffron.
Yeah, for me as a tea drinker, you shouldn't add anything to a proper tea.
What about rose water?
No, this is for you. No, this means the tea wasn't good enough. You have to add this, because when you taste the tea, it gradually changes. Even in the Chinese philosophy, when you have an oolong tea, because there are so many different teas is sort of processed in different ways. Black tea, then you get brown tea, then you get even yellow tea, then green tea, and white tea. Is the way you process tea, becomes blacker or something. So oolong is in between. So fruit taste comes out of the leaf, and it's a tea of conversation, tea of philosophy, because the aroma is different. And as you talk and you're sipping, the different flavors keep changing with oxidization in your mouth. So oolong tea or green tea or even black tea.
When people put like rose petals in the tea or something like that, you don't like that, huh?
No, definitely not for me. It's good for parties, because they're not proper tea.
What about cardamom?
Oh no, these are like southeast of Iran. Yeah, that's southeast of Iran. That is, they put cardamom or darchin, cinnamon. Yeah. These are, again, when the tea is not a good quality, you add that.
I see.
I'll tell you something about Jian and Pegah, which is like tea cube by the side. That's you put by the teeth. I went to North. I was going to the North Sudan, to North Sweden, with the Sami people, or the Inuits, or the native of Sweden, and they live in tents, the proper one. And he gave me coffee. It was amazing. He made coffee exactly the way we make tea. He put it in a really nice teapot, metal, straight into the fire, and then poured it and then gave me a sugar cube and put it here, said, "Sip it with sugar cube in your mouth." I said, "Oh my God, we do the same in Iran." He said, "We did it for a long time." And he said, "We used to trade coffee in the old days, and we started from those days." So this idea of that we wet the tea cube in tea to ward off the najasi, the unholiness of the sugar cube, because it came from, I don't know, England, something. Is your next intelligent person is going to tell you, I think it's not correct. I think it's an urban myth created that we have to wait. It's a 19th century myth, but you're going to ask your historian after
And
that.
when are we? I'm working my way through to the end of these. I've almost come to the end here of these specifications of these particular ideas that we have, because I
Yes.
love it. I love it. There's so much ritualization when it comes to Iranians and tea. When
Yeah.
are we meant to drink tea? 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, people who listen to Roqe regularly will know that I went on a journey with some of the Roqe team to my first real, like authentic, real calipache, and which I quite enjoyed.
Alright.
As it turned
Thanks,
out.
I'm a vegan, so that
Sorry.
was really
But
beautiful sight.
but what was interesting to me is we were sitting before they brought the calipache, they brought tea, and then after the calipache, they brought tea. And which was interesting to me. Like, you wouldn't go in, say, North American culture, you wouldn't go for a burger and fries and they bring tea before it. I mean, they probably wouldn't bring tea afterwards either. But you think of tea as an after the meal thing to do. Tell me about the tradition of tea before the meal.
Okay, I think that is again because of the Islamic culture. Because in the Europe you have beer. Okay, before and after.
Right.
In the ancient time, I read about breakfast, and breakfast, I think also in Iran, was black beer. You would drink something like that if you could get hold of. And one of the main exports of this kind of beer was Babylon, and also into Egypt. So in the old days, in ancient time, we didn't have tea, of course, but very soon coffee as a waking up thing, and also tea as enhancement of your awareness, but definitely in the morning. But we had also asrune, which is like the afternoon tea, for sure. But I think when men have conversation like pubs, the beers, the people gather together, we would gather in tea houses. So you have tea all the time.
Right.
I remember in the old days, everywhere we would go, they would offer us tea. And barista, which Persian is called abdarchi, were always part of any office was the tea house. They would bring you tea in a small kamar barik and then anakan.
Yeah.
So I think originally started, I would say, as a social thing, because tea would be very difficult to make and not every household could own them.
Well, originally, if you want to go back 500 years, it started as medicinal.
Yeah.
But after,
but again, ask your historians. For instance, same in Philippines. Philippine people, I heard they're mostly poor. They don't have kitchen. That's why there's so much street food. And also in Thailand, mostly they eat outside because they can't do it. So I think the tea started, in my opinion, it's just a guess, as a social event, then went to our homes. And then it became something you spend time in a conversation. You went to Kalipacha, and while you're waiting, you have tea. And then afterwards. So I think it's something that gradually added on. I have to say something very important here.
Okay.
That people in Iran believe, and also there's some pseudoscience mistakenly understood that tea is bad for you after food. It absorbs the iron, so you shouldn't drink it after food. This is not true. It is true, but not true. Because I went to the Board of Medical Sciences in Britain and asked that. Tea does take iron away from food, but in a tiniest possible way. And if you have a disease, if you're ill and you lack iron and you're taking supplements, if you have 3 liters of tea after food is not good for you. Otherwise, it has no problem. And if you ever doubt about these things, you can always drink it 20 minutes after food. It has no harm. I drink tea all the time. Even Chinese people drink with the food. British people with the food, they drink tea, and nothing has came to them any harm. So that myth has to go.
By the way, you and I, very memorably for me, went for Chinese food a few years ago in Soho in London.
Yes.
I don't remember you being vegan. Were you vegan then? Or is that a new thing?
I became vegan, but the food we had was
after
vegan.
that night?
Was bad.
Was it that night?
No. So that food we ate together was a Buddhist, it was a monk vegetable with crispy noodles. So it had tadik of noodles, reshte, and then it had a monk vegetable. So it was vegan. It was different invention.
Maybe I don't
but
know.
I became vegan about 4 months ago, but I'm not religious. Like recently I had crickets with a fantastic American-Mexican family having sotol, which is tequila, mezcal, and sotol is a different drink, come from Chihuahua region. And I had cricket because I'm not religious about it, but I'm vegan.
Well, cricket doesn't really count as meat. I mean, come on.
No, but also I gave up my loved mastikisei.
Oh.
The strained yogurt, which I used to take every day.
Oh, yeah, you can't have must. Why are you vegan? What I mean, not that there's anything.
Kashk.
And kashk, no, that's not as big a.
I don't know why, because I thought it's a different step, and it's interesting, and it opens up other things in you. And I saw this amazing documentary called "The Changing Game" in Netflix, which was created 5 years ago, and I realized, oh my God, there's so much about human diet and evolution and our body. Then after that film, it convinced me that it's a better way to live. But I'm not suggesting it should be any. It's just a matter of choice.
Second last question. See, you're almost done.
Yes.
Second last question.
Yes.
So far in the conversation, when you've been speaking about your tea ceremony and the tea you drink and the tea you make and the tea you absorb and the tea you like, it sounds like we're mostly talking about black tea or caffeinated tea. And obviously you would know there's been this, in recent years, a surge of popularity of specialty teas like herbal teas, green teas, and a global trend towards diverse health-conscious beverage choices. I don't notice that with Iranians. Normally at the end of a dinner party I might say, because I have a bunch of different teas, I say, oh, would you like ginger tea or, this tea or that tea? And they're just like, can you just bring Persian tea, which they mean like kind of a black or a Earl Grey, kind of a caffeinated tea. Do you what is your take on Iranians and herbal tea?
I think it moved again with two different tendencies. One is again superstition that tea is not good for you, and also tendency towards the old medicine mixed with khurafat. Also having fun because is enough of this tealess experiment other things. It's called damnush. And the rise of attariha, the what attari is like, old school pharmacists have no education. And so all these teas are together to create this damnush. And also there's this belief that green tea is better than black tea, which is not true. Again, this is like a myth. And also it's
or
not
that green tea doesn't have as
stronger.
much caffeine, and it does. It's
No, very tiny. No, I think it's tiny more. Imagine coffee is 20 units, black tea is like 5, and maybe green tea is 3. It's not really this. And also health-wise, black tea is just as good as green tea. But we feel better. Also, there's a belief that white tea is the healthiest. It has antioxidants and all that. I mean, the amount of antioxidants in this, which helps you not to get old or rust, is nothing. The highest antioxidant in the food is black currant and things like that. These are like doesn't even count. And so black tea for me is definite, and I will never add anything else to it, because if it comes from a right year, right height, right garden, and the right home with the right style of brewing. Thank you, sir.
Not OCD at all.
Bolour, signing off.
Not OCD at all. A final question to you, or a final opportunity here. If
I have also something to tell you about Persian, because you had a film showing you in Canada. I was there, and this guy came up and say, why you say Persian?
We were calling it Talking to Persians, and he said, why are you calling it that?
I have the question now. I did so much research.
You have the answer or the question?
Go ahead. You asked me the last question.
You have the answer to that or the question?
The answer to that.
Right. The guy said, because we have a series called
I know the answer.
No, I'm asking you. I'm going to ask you the answer.
Okay.
The guy said, "Why are this Talking to Persians series that you have? Why don't you call it Talking to Iranians? You're being, we are Iranian. Why you're not being inclusive or something by calling it or you're." Or
I tell you now the answer.
What is the answer?
The answer is this. This is after many research and talking to scholars and doing research.
Wow.
Even I went to Italy. and by accident I came up to this answer. You see, before Persians, first of all, our culture, which is a mixture of mother language, religion, art, belief, and law, was from West China all the way to end of today's Turkey, Sakkaites and Hittites. They all spoke. When we speak now to Afghan people, they might understand. They don't understand.
Sure.
Oh, Tajiks, yeah, we all speak in Persian, but somehow it's our own dialect. That massive land, all the way to Persian Gulf and part of South Arabia, they all spoke the same thing. In the old days, it would be called Aryan, because Darius in his tablet says, we wrote in Aryan. So that's even worse than what you think. But none of these people thought that they are any different to the other. And imagine, when the Achaemenians took over Mads, Midates, and everything, the land was called the land of Persia, because it was the first Persian empire, first Iranian Aryan empire that all unified by the same law. Language was official, not necessarily the religion, and the law and everything, and the armies went. So it became one land for the first time. Before it was different people with similarities. Funny enough, so the language became Persian and the language. If the Midates would take over, our language would become Midate, would be called that. If the Hittites would take over 2,000 years ago, we were speaking Hittite language, and it was called Hittite Gulf instead of Persian Gulf. And this would be called Persian, not Persian, Midate tea or something. It's just a name. Even after the Achaemenids, even Greeks would call the king of Iran the Midate king, and even the language they would still call it Midates. They didn't know any difference between
but
isn't
Behzad, isn't the argument, we're way down the rabbit hole that has nothing to do with tea, but isn't the argument that not all Iranians are Persians?
No, we are all Persians, because it's the name of our culture and our history and our mutuality. Like Americans. Iran was like an America, with so many different people in it, so many different races, but they all believed they were from Iran, Beige. So it's same as, they're all Americans, but they could be this. There's so much distortion of history. Languages came over. People believe that they belong to somewhere else. These are all so-called by Trump, the fake history of Iran. But the language and something, it's just a name. If, as I said, the Madha, the Midas would take over this language, I'm talking, زبانی که دارم با تو صحبت می‌کنم زبان مادها میشد اسمش، نه فارسی.
Yes, you made the point. Yeah.
So it's just a name, and it doesn't mean a race at all. It was a name of a race or a group of people, but now it's the name of everybody else. Like Iran is the same.
But not all Persians are Iranians, right?
No, all Persians are Iranians.
And all Iranians are Persians?
Oh, yeah, you can say that.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Since the Achaemenian time, because that was the name of our language and our land after. It's just a name.
So the final question I was going to ask you is, in as much as you've had this love affair with tea, that tea is perhaps your most constant companion, your closest...
And wine. Red wine.
That's a separate episode.
Yeah.
What would you...
But it is tea, yes.
To
tea
the non-Iranian, and perhaps even the Iranian non-tea drinker, somebody who's not as obsessed, how would you, in a very brief moment, how would you sell it to those people?
Oh, that's beautiful.
How would you sell your love affair with tea? Not sure.
How would I sell that? That's interesting. Yeah. That's difficult. Maybe I can never be a good salesman.
Well, you've done a good job of it already, I think. But why should someone invite regular tea drinking into their life?
Yeah, I think because tea, like a friend of mine in San Diego said that people drink wine in a bar, they should have a ceremony for it, like it was before. So for me, tea drinking would give you relaxation and connects you to so many things in life that you don't have time to think about, if you give time to brew tea and drink tea. That is what I do with tea. And every time I drink tea, I sort of go to a different dimension. At least I make myself believe that with tea, you create that moment of calmness, like meditation, because tea has warmth, has aroma, has color. It has history of so many events in Iran and in the world today. It has such a history. It came from the dragon root, which we don't know about, we know Silk Road, but there was a dragon road where the tea walkers would have tea bricks on their shoulder and walk it to our lands and further away. So it has so much. When I drink this, I just connect to that garden in north of Sri Lanka, and then to my parents, to that office in Iran, 1970s. Then I just, even in my program recordings in Turkey, when I was enjoying the tea for the first time outside my home, and connects me to even to the Safavids. But it's just a moment that you can create a virtual reality.
Beautifully done. Beautifully done.
Okay. Thank you.
You know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to go, and you know what I'm going to make for myself?
A good tea without a tea bag.
Actually, Nescafe. I'm going to make Nescafe. I'm going to hold the Nescafe in front of a television so I can look through it and see the strength of the Nescafe.
Make sure nobody spits in it, like the films.
I love you.
Make it yourself.
Thank you so much for all the wisdom. We miss you. Come back to Toronto, and I feel like I've been to the tea ceremony, and I look forward to many more, even the vegan ones.
Looking forward to see you, man, and talk to you and everybody say in Persian. Thank you.
Durud. Khodafis.
Khodafis. خیلی ممنون.
That was Behzad Bolour joining me from Southern California. This is episode 295 of Roqe Special called Tea and Iranian Obsession. Microphone's back on here for Mahsa Mortazavi, the journalist, reporter, broadcaster, producer in the studio here, and Smart Pegah Ganji, SPG, also here. So that was fun, as it always is, speaking to Behzad's. Initial impressions?
I'm intimidated now. What do I say after that? He's such an expert on all things tea. I feel like I'm not qualified
He is the self-proclaimed tea master. I don't think anyone else has proclaimed that, but he has.
That was incredible. And, I can't believe the emotional connection to tea and the ceremonies and all of that. I was blown away.
Oh, okay.
Honestly.
You're blown away by his connection to tea.
To tea, yeah. I mean, I thought I had a ritual with tea because I would have tea every day with my grandfather, for example, but this is far beyond.
Yes. And Mahsa?
There are a few things that I'm questioning about myself. First of all, having this green tea doesn't feel good anymore.
Right?
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Right.
To
recap, about an hour ago, we talked about the fact that that's right, that Mahsa is drinking tea in the studio, but not black tea, green tea.
Yes.
And now you're feeling guilty about that.
Yes, I am feeling very guilty about it. And I'm just going to put it away. I'm not going to look at it anymore.
He makes a good case, Behzad, because he's so committed to his tea.
And then one more thing. Yes. Imagine having friends over and then choose that tea that takes 36 hours to brew. Like, I have to go home and make some tea right now just to host people 2 days from now. Yeah, it's
silly.
It's time consuming. You know what I do? I usually wait for the guests to arrive, and that's when I boil my water and then brew some tea, and then I give it to them just right after. I should apologize again.
How dare you? This is TMI. Don't tell the world these things.
More importantly, what kind of glasses do you serve it in, and how, and
I've
all
got
of
different
those
types.
Specifications?
Oh my God! No, I have the glass, the regular Irani divan dastedar. That's what I have.
It's interesting because in the West, obviously, and mugs are the thing. And in some cases, the bigger the mug, the better. Right? That's what you get used to. And now, of course, my mom, like my family, has the sort of estica, the little tea glass cups.
Like kamar barik, what you call it.
Various versions. Well, they're not always kamar barik. Sometimes they're like dainty little glasses. What do you call them? Glasses.
Estakon.
Estakon. But with some of them have handles.
The handles, the small handles.
And some don't. But as I started going back to Turkey, or going to Turkey regularly a few years ago, and falling in love with the tea and the Estakon barik, kamar barik, I ordered some for myself.
Oh, okay.
And I have to say, like, I don't know if it's a psychological thing.
It tastes better.
It does. It does.
You know why?
They say, I mean, this is part of, and Behzad was referring to this as well, that you, depending on how you serve it and how it's it airs out, and the way that the certainly glass has a different relationship than plastic, or what you might get in a mug that's porcelain or something like that. But I really do feel like it's a little higher maintenance because you have to keep filling it up, you know. But then you're also like, I've had 6 glasses of tea, and they're just these tiny things,
It's so funny. It's so funny that you're saying that, because I have this I wouldn't say argument, but this kind of back and forth with my dad all the time, because he has a specific teacup that he drinks out of.
I love it. I love your dad.
And
that's correct.
when we have guests over, obviously my mom likes to pour the tea in matching glassware. So there's 8 or 10 or 12 of the same one. And so he'll drink his tea in that. And then as soon as the guests leave, he's like, bring my tea in my cup. It just didn't taste right. Yeah. So then he has to have a tea after all the guests have gone.
What is his cup like?
So it's like the kamar barik, but it's not. It's a smaller teacup, no handle, and it's very thin glass, and it's got this pattern on the bottom, and so he says it keeps it perfect temperature.
Exactly.
And he can
it's
drink
all about
it.
the temperature.
Yeah, so he has all these little details.
But also, don't you find in general, North America being the epicenter of consumption, like buffets and big things, don't you find that when things are served to you in smaller amounts, you're necessarily forced to savor them more?
Yeah, I mean,
in other words, the tea, you're not going to wolf it down if it's in a small little glass, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
sip it and it's as opposed to you get it in a huge mug.
It's the whole concept of gastronomy is when you have food even in smaller portions, you really take a moment to savor the taste and the texture and all of that. So makes sense.
That's one thing I never thought about. Most of my tea usually goes to waste because I have big mugs.
You put it in a big mug.
Yeah, I have big mugs.
I mean, you've become so khariji.
I have. Yeah. No, I just work too much. I have my tea and then it gets cold and it doesn't taste good anymore, so I throw it out. I make another, and then the same story happens over and over again.
You never nuke the tea?
Oh.
You don't put it in the microwave to heat it up?
No.
Oh.
No.
Who would do that? I totally do that. When the coffee gets cold, you don't put it in the microwave?
Oh my God, never.
I do that. I do that all the time.
Throw that out.
You know what? I'll even go one further. Because I buy nice
Don't tell me that you keep it in the car and drink it in the next day and stuff.
100%.
I do that. Sorry.
Oh my goodness.
100%. I take yesterday's coffee.
Yes,
if
me
it's
too.
left over in my container that I bring, take it, and I nuke it in the morning.
Even not in my mug. Even if it's in a
That's
Tim
because you're
Hortons
privileged.
cup.
No, it's not about privilege.
What is
it's
it
just
about?
how do you drink that?
I know. It's funny too because I'm so particular about the coffee. Like I have a French press and I have a grinder. I buy the beans, I grind it, but then I'll leave it.
I was gonna say you go through all of that, leave it in the
Safajoui.
car, and
That's
then
a waste. I was brought up to not waste things.
My gosh.
You don't want to waste
What
it.
happens is that I'm always hungry when I get in the car. So if there's anything to drink or eat, I will use it.
Maybe it's Pavlovian. Like you always eat in the car, so now that when you get in the car, you get hungry.
Is it?
I
Isn't
always
it
have
because I don't
snacks in
have
my
time
car.
to eat properly? And when I get in the
originally it
car,
might
I'm
have
just
been
like
that.
sitting down, not doing many things at the same time.
You should fill your stomach and then go in your car and still see if you feel like you're hungry. Then it would be Pavlovian.
Have you seen how much I weigh?
I'm going to get back to tea. How would I have seen how much you...
Look at me. Do you think I eat
you're
all the
small.
time?
No, you don't need to. I eat the most, I'm sure, of everybody here. So we did this survey of our audience about I mean, this is something I touched on with. Now, you hear Behzad Bolour. There's only one type of tea. Don't fuck with it. Don't add any other ingredients. Don't get cute with this. Even like sweeteners and stuff he was freaked out about, right? So we know his answer on whether you could serve herbal tea at an Iranian mehmooni. But this was the question I put to the audience, and there's been so many great responses. I want to read some of them and get your reactions to them, because they've been great, and you guys out there keep these responses coming. We'll read some more on Monday as well. The great tea debate. So the question was, can we, i.e. should we, serve herbal tea? Is it okay to serve herbal tea at an Iranian mehmooni? You've just made your khoshte badem jun, you've just served your baghali polo, or you're about to, and you turn up with some lavender ginger tea.
And everyone walks out.
Well, let's see now.
I don't think
let's
so.
see. So Dr. Reza Moradi, who we've had on the show, and I was wondering if she would comment on this. In fact, we should probably bring her in because she is a nutritional expert and an Iranian and obviously a tea lover. So she says, all right. My favorite topic. I've always been a fan of sticking with the tradition, just like how the British afternoon tea has been going on for so many years. I would personally be in favor of serving beautiful Iranian tea from the actual tea plant of Camellia in varieties of black, green, or white. But I would also understand that there are a lot of Iranians liking the damnouche idea these days. You have to explain what that is to me, which is very specific to each person's taste and needs. And even though I didn't get a little saffron, old rose petal may not be hurtful since it's not jushidani, jushande. Jushande. I will only have herbal teas. Why am I fucking reading this? Since it's not jushande, I will only have herbal teas on my teaching classes when I can talk about it in details and stick with the tradition in mehmooni. So she's saying a few things there, but tell me what the
damnouche. Damnouche is a combination of different herbs that you boil in water,
and that's a new thing.
It's a new thing because it's been a trend to lose weight, to get like better metabolism, to be more healthy or more energy or different stuff, or sleep well. So it's a combination of different herbs that you brew.
And after you drink it, do you go, damn, noosh?
Yeah.
What is jushande?
Jushande is the same thing basically. Damnouche and jushande.
It means to boil, no?
Like,
it's spelled jushande.
You're gonna have Khanum Moridi calling you a few hours after this is aired.
And saying what?
She's gonna say, like, get Mahsa out of the show. She doesn't know anything about Jushunde or
well, that happens anyway. But what is? Do you know what Jushande is?
I think it's just
Jushande would be like
Jushunde. It's
brewing.
I like how he asks
boiling.
me and then says, "I think."
Well, okay, go ahead.
He doesn't allow.
I was gonna say.
What will your father say? He's the one who knows things.
No, he'll only tell you about his black tea. But I think it's just the concept of I know some of these herbs, they steep it and they allow it to steep in boiling water, and that's what it's referring to, is to allow it to
that
it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't try to be Farsi.
What?
Jush karde chiye?
Jush shode.
Jushide.
Jushide, that's it. That's what I was looking for. Jush karde is like you have pimples.
Jush karde.
Right, yeah.
Jush karde.
Jush karde. Jushide.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't tell me not to speak Farsi. I own my Farsi. This from the question: can we serve herbal tea for an Iranian mehmooni? This from Amin Broker. I assume he's a broker.
I would assume so.
Unless that's his last name. You can definitely serve herbal tea, but no one will drink it. Ha 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 ha. Happy face emoji. This from Hale Agassi. Of course, there's no rule. Back in the day, they were serving Golgav Zabun.
Oh my God! There is a whole vocabulary that you're getting familiar with.
I don't know the tea. These are things.
Golgav Zabun. It means like a flower that looks like the tongue of the cow, and you brew it, and it calms you down.
Horrible.
It's supposed to be very good for you.
It's purple.
Zabunagov. having a cup of tea.
Servings.
I am learning a lot. But her point was that that's an herbal tea. And so this from Venus 539. Yes, though it must be served as an about herbal tea. Yes, that must be served as an alternative to the traditional tea, which must be perfect in color, aroma, and served in traditional tea glasses. The herbal teas are Golegov Zabun and Damnouche, which is homemade. An example of Damnouche in the winter is marinated slices of oranges or limes layered in honey for weeks in advance. See, if I read this first, I would have inferred what Damnouche is, and yeah.
That sounds good, actually.
Damn,
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Neda Oji says, I do serve herbal tea in my mehmoonis.
Oh, nobody's going there anymore.
How dare you? This Ali Salim Shirazi, not at mehmoonis. Normally for health benefits and possibly curing some illnesses. For instance, Jushande for a sore throat. Babune.
Yeah, babune.
And
Chamomile.
again, the Golgav Zabun.
Yeah.
And
Can you try to say Jushunde for me?
It was spelt the first time
No,
Jushande.
don't. Jushunde.
Jushunde.
Okay, there you go.
And Avishan.
Avishan. Yeah.
Oregano.
Yeah.
You see, people then think I can't speak Persian because I don't
No,
know
you
these
can.
words.
It's just
What's
that
babune?
you do high
Chamomile.
pitch.
Who knew that there was? Oh, that's what babune. That's right.
Chamomile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, the cow of the tongue flower, tea. These are not things we learn. Mary SF444 says, depends on the generation of the guests and hosts. New generation, yes, but if my parents host a gathering, who would dare to mention a substitute for a traditional black tea?
Makes sense.
Yeah, although I kind of feel like in the new generation, you want to be, you want to live by those traditions. It's kind of cool to. I feel I don't want to serve herbal tea.
I always thought of herbal tea like
I have all the herbal teas, but I don't want to serve them.
I always thought of herbal tea like, the ones that you mentioned, like the damnouche and things like that, as ailments. Like, again, they're like
Golgav Zabun,
yeah,
for example?
they were meant for when you were sick.
What
like,
about the Avishan?
all of them?
Yeah, you're doing good.
What about the Babune?
Babune.
He's getting approvals from me for the people
I'm
who
just
don't
practicing
see.
all the things I've learned. Yes, you used to think of them as medicinal.
Yeah, and like regular black tea was what you drank on, the everyday, and then all the other stuff was if you were sick or if there was something in particular wrong with you, then it was medicinal.
Funny you should say that, because in different eras of my life, when I was a singer, that was my job for all those years in the band, herbal teas were about the throat. It would be much, much better than a black tea, for example. And then for years, I was like really into yoga and hanging out with people who were into yoga. And that's a whole herbal tea thing. You don't want to bring the black teas to that crowd.
Not at all.
They're not going to be happy with you, in the middle of your shavasana. But then with the Iranian thing, it does feel like imagine you go to a Persian restaurant and you bring your non-Iranian friends and you have a kebab and whatever, and you kubide, and then you say, yeah, can you bring some chai afterwards? And they bring some herbal tea.
Yeah.
No,
Wouldn't
it's
it
not
feel
gonna work.
weird?
It's not the same.
Work.
And also I have no scientific evidence of this, but I think that the part of the reason they do is because isn't it good like for post digestion? Yeah, for like after
it works the opposite for me though.
Oh.
Yes, you said you can't.
That's TMI again, right?
Yeah, stop it. This Shivajim says, depends how close you are with the guests. If you're not too close with them, stick to regular black tea and sugar cubes. There you go. Shirin Amani Azari, one of our favorite authors. Great topic, thought-provoking. As a dedicated tea drinker, I have yet not come across herbal tea at an Iranian mehmooni. Never seen that before. This from Shahrukh Bamani. Teas come in a different variety and taste, which most of Iranians are not familiar with. That being said, trying to satisfy your mehmoons with single or many variety of herbal teas is a huge task in itself. Good luck. All right.
I love how he put S at the end of mehmoon. Mehmoons.
Mehmoons.
This from Shahram Marhamat. I believe for the Iranians in Iran, which are more traditional, black tea will be the dominant drink. As for the Iranians abroad, it will be coffee and herbal tea, keeping in mind that brewing proper black tea takes time, and that's another eliminating factor in life in the fast lane.
Coffee or Nescafe?
Nescafe. That's an interesting new argument, which is, if you're time sensitive, it does take longer to do the traditional Persian tea than to throw together some.
Especially if you're doing it properly.
That I do, not the 10 minutes that I do. No.
Does it get steeped in 10 minutes?
I think it does. It looks good, and it smells good.
Homie or Homie 416 says, haven't seen it myself. The closest I've seen is black tea with a sprig of mint in it, but that's still black tea as the base. And finally, Baro 2019, to the question, can you serve herbal tea at an Iranian mehmooni? Absolutely not. You have offended me.
Oh, there you go. That's where people get offended.
And I love it. I love that offended. I love that. Thank you, Bara 2019. There's lots of other comments, and keep them coming. You can either write us at info@roqemedia.com, or you can post on any of our platforms, including on Instagram there, where many of the comments I just read are from.
Can I say something before you move on from the tea topic?
Yes.
I can't believe that you're still obsessed with modern talking. In the beginning of the conversation,
I said nothing about them.
Yes, you did.
Today?
Yes, you did.
What did I say?
You said, beside modern talking that everybody loves in Iran, there's tea that everybody loves. Or something in that context.
Yeah.
So you're still sticking with the modern talking.
Well, I'll forever be confused.
Did you go?
No, I did not go.
Oh my God, you missed it.
Did you go?
Good. No.
We would have done a whole episode
to catch
if you
people
had gone.
up. First of all, I always feel bad if there's a non-Iranian listening. First of all, they don't know what half these like kamat barik. But second of all, now when we're talking about modern talking, they definitely don't know what we're talking about, because no one has heard of this band except for Iranians. No one. No one has heard of modern talking.
I'm going to advocate them.
Yeah. But you love them so much that you didn't go to the show. Thomas and what was the other guy's name?
Something really strange. And I was just trying to remember.
Thomas and what was his name?
Let me search it.
Yeah, Dude. Thomas and Diebert, something like that. Dietrich.
Dietrich, yeah.
Dieter. No,
no.
I don't know.
Do you really want to know?
The two members of Modern Talking, one of
Dieter.
Dieter. It is Dieter and
Dieter
Thomas.
Bolin.
Yeah, but I think Dieter's the guy who didn't come.
He's the lead guitar.
See, the funny thing is every time you bring up Modern Talking, it's usually
I bring up.
Well, you brought it up. I didn't say anything.
I'm sorry. You asked.
There is each show.
Behzad.
Each show there is an obligatory mention of Arsenal.
Oh, here we go. The Arsenal bell.
When Arsenal gets mentioned, but now the funny thing about mentioning Modern Talking and my antipathy towards Modern Talking, I use that word because most people won't know what it means, but it means hatred. I don't hate them. I just don't have a stake in it. I don't get it. But the funny thing is, it's promotional.
Yes,
I've done more to promote the career of Thomas and Dieter over the last few months than anybody for years.
Next time they're gonna have a special performance for you.
I mean, people
in
go.
Roqe Studio.
People.
You have the drums here.
People who don't like listening to me will go to Modern Talking. Think about that. There's lots of those people.
It's a choice between you and Modern Talking.
That's right. That's the choice. It's like herbal tea and black tea. Let's go to anything else you want to say about tea?
Oh, I thought you were going to say something about Arsenal.
I just mentioned the word.
Okay.
Oh, we had a big win yesterday.
Oh, see, there we go. I knew it was going to be something.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue with the tea, though.
Yes.
I don't know anything about Arsenal. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize
tea drinkers.
many times.
I'll bet they're tea
today.
drinkers. Yeah.
It was about my apology today. Anyhow,
do you have anything to say about Golgov
Zabun?
Zabun?
It does really help, though. You should try it whenever you're nervous. Just brew some Golgov Zabun and put some limu amani in it with some nabat. If Behzad is not offended,
I'm sure he'd hate that.
but yeah, it would be good. Anyhow, the closest thing that I have here in Canada to a traditional mehmooni is my cousin's place. What she does, which makes sense, is that she serves traditional tea in the beginning, and then after we have dinner,
all bets are off. Could be anything.
Yeah, no, she brings this whole selection of tea that we can choose from. So it's like a It's like a puzzle game that you can play. There's a
You mean
setting.
tea in bags?
No, there are two.
There are loose leaf teas?
Sorry, there are two teapots with two different types of tea, and then she has this box full of flour, mint, whatever that you can put actually like
Toppings.
physically put on your
The
in
actual
your tea.
leaves,
Yeah,
mint
the
leaves.
leaves.
Oh.
And then you can design your
It's
tea.
quite a mehmooni.
Yeah.
It's quite a mehmooni. And
Very
she does
interesting.
make a good khoresh bademjun, as you mentioned.
I was about a month ago whenever it was, we had that Kale Pache excursion that Pegah refused to come to. And I went for traditional Kale Pache. It was interesting to me that they served tea before the Kale Pache and after the Kale Pache.
First it washes, and then afterwards it also washes.
In a different way.
The two functions, washing and then also
and
washing.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's I mean, I guess it's but again, all the more interesting that tea culture hasn't even existed for Iranians for that long, but we're so obsessed with it, and we now see it as something traditional. Oh, kala pache, you better have the tea before and
Yeah.
after. We've been doing that for thousands of years. No, we haven't. There you go. Let's get to a couple of items on the way. We're way over time here, so we'll just get to a couple of items on the roundup. And I thought it was very interesting this week, and I mentioned it to you guys when we thought we'd talk about it, is the Shahzadeh, the prince, the crown prince, or just Reza Pahlavi, depending on what you want to call him, was on Piers Morgan.
After
The
12 years.
Yeah.
Notable, controversial, and now once again seemingly popular British talk anchor. And so Reza Pahlavi, this past week, in the midst of a lot going on in the world, had a feature spot on Piers Morgan. And I thought, the reason I thought it was interesting, I mean, I don't think maybe it's because we're used to seeing Reza Pahlavi at this point,
Right.
and we've seen him in our social media feeds or watched his speeches or have a sense of him or whatever, so we know. But he didn't really say anything new. I mean, we've heard Reza Pahlavi saying the same things that he said, particularly even about the Middle East and and certainly about the regime, etc. But I thought his appearance, for me, suggested that, and maybe this is overstating it, but teamed with the fact that I saw him on Fox News again recently, and he's kind of popping up in non-Iranian major media, mainstream media, because of course he shows up in Iranian media, but so do a lot of other prominent Iranian figures, and particularly those who have been considered the leaders of the so-called opposition in Iran, outside of Iran, I should say. He's increasingly, it feels like, becoming a go-to voice for the Western media. Now, that may seem obvious, but it hasn't always been. In fact, I would venture to say that even 2 or 3 years ago, not that Reza Pahlavi hasn't done these kind of interviews before, but there really wasn't that much appetite to have. I mean, he was kind of, dare I say, at the suggestion that this will become something that monarchists won't like to hear, but he's kind of forgotten about. I mean, it was oh yeah, there was a Shah, and but I'm talking about non-Iranians. Now it's the Crown Prince, that people know his title. He's coming on. I think this is a byproduct, certainly, of the last year of the Women Life Freedom movement, and where he very much became one of the most recognizable figures of that. And that Piers Morgan himself, or his bookers or his producers or whoever it was, would think, oh, we got to get Reza Pahlavi to talk about the role of Iran, rather than any other opposition leader, rather than some DC pundit or writer, the usual, not to take anything away from them, but the Karim Sajapour type, whatever. But I'm going to get Reza Pahlavi. I thought that suggests that something about the way he is being seen by the rest of the world.
I thought it was also, coming off of, I think it was just a couple months ago, he had taken that trip to Israel. So that, I think, also made him I don't know, for lack of a better term, qualified for an interview like this, because I know Piers Morgan asked him about his trip actually, and asked him about some of the comments that Netanyahu had made while he was in Israel. So I thought that was, also interesting. But I agree with you. I was kind of, I don't want to say surprised, but it was something I thought about as well when I saw him talking to Piers Morgan, because, we see less and less of, for example, Masih or Nazanin Boniadi in comparison, I think. And at one point,
I feel like I see Masih, but I can't even imagine necessarily seeing Hamid Ismailion or Ali Karimi or somebody like that on Piers Morgan to talk about the situation in the Middle East, as much as I could imagine them on Iran International, but.
Yeah, for sure. But like I said, it also made me think of it, because at one point we were looking at this collective as being the face of, the ongoing movement and the opposition and all of that. And now to see, Reza Pahlavi as the sole figure, it was definitely interesting.
Well, he grew up in the dynamics of getting to know all the tension in the region, right? None of the other people had that kind of experience in their lives. And during the past year, he was really vocal, like he was a part of the movement, and he was selected by many people among the Iranian community, and he's reflecting many thoughts of the Iranian community. So it makes sense for him to be there. For Hamid Ismailion, from what I know, from the conversations that we had before, I understand that he doesn't want to be involved in politics that much. He was just like, how can I put it? He was just forced into the group of 6 people. He thought he had a role in it, and he took the responsibility to be in the group. It's not that he selected personally to be there, because whenever we had a chance to talk, he would say, like, I would want to take a vacation and go off somewhere nobody knows me and do my own stuff. Masih is also involved with other things these days, as we talked before. So she's doing her the global freedom thing that is becoming bigger and bigger each year. It's now 57 countries are involved. But Reza Pahlavi, after 12 years with Piers Morgan, it really means something, I think. And he did have actually something new to say. The last question, so during the past year with the Women Life Freedom movement, every time anybody asked Prince Pahlavi that if you wanted to take over the country after the government is overthrown, he would say, I don't know, we're going to leave it up to people. But then this time, he took it out of his mouth, saying, yes, if the opportunity comes, if people select me, I'm going to do it.
That's true, Although I feel like that has been a shift over the last few months. I don't feel like that was breaking news on Piers Morgan. I feel like he's intimated that a few times now. But
it was the first time I heard it, heard it
point blank, I think,
mainstream media. It was the first time. For myself,
he
I
would
don't
probably
know
still put that in the category of if the Iranian people wanted me to.
He did. But I always thought to myself, even if things work out for him to become the next king of Iran or the head of state, like however you want to put it, he wouldn't want to, because he had this resistance in him that I felt. I don't know if anybody else felt.
But it's not just that he had this resistance in him. It's that there wasn't, again, with apologies to the monarchists out there who are really, really, fervent about him, the appetite wasn't there. And the Iranian community and the global Iranian community, there's always been fans of Reza Pahlavi, but there's also been people like, well, that was a different era. He doesn't represent us anymore. He's not charismatic. He's not this. He's not that.
Right.
Or even, much worse, sort of like, are you kidding? A return to that, and that he's, to his credit and the people around him, he's moved that dial quite a bit over the last couple of years, and especially over the last year, so that that's kind of my point, I didn't see, maybe people don't, where it's not like Piers Morgan it's like the Tonight Show or something. Everybody watches Piers Morgan. But, because it's kind of a big show and it's an English show, I didn't see a gazillion Iranians going, how dare Reza Pahlavi go on Piers Morgan? Rather, people were sharing it. People were going, it's interesting. And that again, that suggests the community isn't surprised by this. It's like,
but whenever Masih Ali Najad goes on different news channels, Fox News, whatever, she goes, nobody says, how dare she? Everybody like shares. Why would people say, how dare she? Because she is a representative of a group of Iranians. She's leading in the women's rights section that she's been doing for so long, right? So whenever there are things that are shared on social media that is helping the cause of moving towards freedom for the Iranian community, I don't see that much of resistance, especially when it's represented on a media that is not Iranian. If it's Iran International, I would understand. I get a bunch of swears every day because I share this and that, and I like express my thoughts. But on mainstream media outside of Iran, I don't see that
I do
very
think
much.
that maybe not Mahsa, although I've seen resistance to when Mahsa does interviews. I'm sorry, on depending on what she says, of course.
Even in English, even in
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
The famous interview that where she said something about I'm the leader, or I think I'm going to be the leader, or whether she was misquoted or however, that was an English magazine, right? That was the New York
there was
Times
a lot.
magazine.
Yeah, that was New York Times.
But be that as it may, I mean, you're right. I mean, of course, Mahsa usually represents very well on media, and the people are usually enthusiastic or think she's doing well. I guess I meant more. It's not that we don't cheer on people who are well spoken talking about the atrocities committed by the regime, especially, but it's that I feel like Reza Pahlavi was sort of invited almost as the heir apparent, or the prince in exile. It's just not a position that we've often seen. It, I have to say, early on, like maybe last September or something, or right after Mahsa, there was a local, I didn't really watch the CBC, but I happened to see this because he was on, it was being shared. He was on local, the CBC News Network or something. And it was clear that the person interviewing him didn't even know who he was. Didn't know how important he was. Was kind of like, and now we've got a representative, this guy, And so, and I don't think that's the case today. I think, if he goes on CBC today, it would be like, it's a big deal.
We should also give the credit to the woman life freedom movement. It went so global.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, and then the history of he grew up as the crown prince. He has this history of many years of being educated as the person who would lead a country, and so that experience helps him represent Iran.
So I'm glad we're staying consistent with our tea special. We've got completely into a discussion, a deep dive on Reza Pahlavi. Can we just go to the other 2 points?
Of course.
So the other thing we were going to mention is new hijab crackdowns in Iran. We don't have to say a lot about it, but it goes without saying, I suppose, or it's obvious that any talk of the hijab police or the hijab policy moderating seems like a sad joke at this stage. But there's even been new measures that the regime is taking to sort of reinforce its mandatory hijab position.
I think as of late October, I think it was, the Ministry of Culture and Islamic Guidance started this almost like campaign, if you will, where they started to target actresses who had shown any sort of defiance, by not wearing their hijab properly, by making a stance on social media or at gatherings like funerals, for example, or anything of that sort. And they started banning them from their profession, literally, saying that they could no longer work. And it's gotten so ridiculous that, there's been a couple of actresses who had appeared in productions or films and things like that. And now those films are being shown in theaters and places across the country. And I saw this article where, the image that they were to use, because one of the actresses is in it, they've actually taken that image, or two of them rather.
Baran Kosari and Fatima Motameri.
Yeah, they've taken that image and instead put this white screen with just the name of the film. So they're not even willing to show their image anywhere in the public anymore, because they're trying to drive this point home that it doesn't matter who you are, how famous you are, or what you do. If you go against this law, you will be dealt with.
It hasn't even been a year since they used the picture of these same people on a big poster in Meidun Vali Asr. representing the women of our country.
Exactly.
The Fatima Motamedaria was on there. She refused to be there, so they took off, like along with many others. They refused to be there as the representatives of the women of our society, Iranian women. And now they are banned from having their pictures, their posters up. It's like a game they're playing in two different sides, right?
It just says so much about the disregard for women, literally. I mean,
but it also says a lot about the doubling down on, don't think that your little women life freedom uprising over the last year is going to change anything. In fact, we're going to show you, we're going to teach you to not do that again by cracking down even further. And we've seen this, we saw some immediate reaction, and then it kind of went a little quiet. There were some executions that stopped, and we thought, okay, well, look at how much ground has been covered. Look at how the goalposts have moved. And now we see that, this is an ongoing campaign by the regime to reverse any progress that was made last year, and in fact to get worse.
I have so much respect for the white poster, so much respect, because there was a male feature who is well known, Hutan Shakiba, and they decided, the director of the film decided that he's going to take down the picture of that person, and he agreed to do so just to respect the women who were also present in the film. If I was in Iran, I would definitely go watch it, because of this, even if I didn't like the topic or if it wasn't my favorite.
All right, let's leave it there. It's time for some tea.
Yeah.
It's time for some black tea, some Iranian tea. Thanks, Mahsa. Nice to see you.
Thank you for having me again.
Thank you.
I'm sorry again for the green tea, and I expect you to give me a good tea after we're done.
Don't apologize to me. Apologize to the Iranian people.
Oh my God, you're going to make it that big? Are you going to give me a good tea after this?
You're going to be erased from the poster for your tea
For
crime.
what it's worth, I'll take down your picture as well.
Thanks, Pegah.
Thank you.
This is full time for Roqe for today. That's it. End of the show. Our tea special, tea and Iranian obsession. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. For all things Roqe related, go to our website, roqemedia.com. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together a couple times a week. Super P, Super Parisa, Smart Pegah, Savvy Roham, Methodical Kaveh, Talented Anikita, Bearded Omid, and Resonant Rahal. Thank you to all of you out there. New nicknames, new monikers.
Where's my name?
Oh yeah, you don't have a nickname.
You're Mahsa Mortazavi.
That's it?
You're Mahsa Mortazavi. I'm scared to say anything more.
High maintenance.
High maintenance Mahsa. HM Mahsa. High maintenance Mahsa. Thank you, everybody. Find me on Instagram at Jian Gameshi. Mizun Bashin.